Last June the 11th, I had a heart attack. It was a surprise to me, and by the 30th of June I'd had a quadruple bypass. It wasn't quite like you see on television. I didn't even know I'd had a heart attack. There wasn't the grabbing your left-hand side and falling over dramatically. I hardly knew it had happened. In fact, I thought that I was suffering from asthma. The symptoms came on over time, but it's only when I look back that I realised that I'd had any symptoms at all. For example, some weeks before, I went shopping with my wife and I was shouting after her to slow down because I couldn't keep up with her. A couple of days before I had the actual heart attack, I went for a walk with a colleague round the park, round the lake here, for about a mile, and when I got back I was in a terrible state, really out of breath and sweaty and not feeling very well at all. But I didn't realise what was happening. I still thought that I was suffering from asthma because I normally get hay fever, and this year I hadn't. That evening I took the dog out for a walk, and as I walked up what's quite a steep hill by our house, I got the breathlessness again. I felt slightly sweaty, but the only different symptom was that I had a numbness in my right arm. It was almost as though I'd lain awkwardly on it and the blood had stopped going, and I had the after effects of pins and needles. That lasted about half an hour, and still the penny didn't drop. I went home, went to bed, and luckily the next day I was off work, so I decided I'll go and see the GP and see if he can test me for asthma. I went in to see the GP. He asked me a couple of questions about the symptoms and then said, anyone in your family suffered from heart problems? And I said, oh yes, my dad, he died at 60 of a massive heart attack, and both my grandfathers had heart trouble. He put me on an ECG machine, took a look at the results, said, I think you've had a heart attack, and sent me down to Singleton. I didn't really believe that I had had a heart attack even at that point, but they took some blood and they tested it, and they came back and said, the technical term was that I'd had a cardiac incident. They took me to have an angiogram, and that's when the penny finally dropped. They found out that all four vessels to the heart were practically blocked. The medical teams in Singleton and then in Morriston, where I was transferred to, were brilliant. The care was second to none, I guess. I wouldn't be here without them, that's certain. After I'd had the operation, it was explained to me that I needed to change my lifestyle. Unless I did, I would be back in hospital within 2 years with similar problems with the new vessels that they put in place. I was advised to have a low-fat diet, low in saturated fats, and that I should exercise more. You're offered a 6 weeks course of cardiac rehab. I would recommend it to anyone that needs it. It's basically 6 weeks of going along and being supervised by a nurse and a physio twice a week, and they teach you to exercise and to know how your body is responding to that exercise. Once I got a bit fitter, I decided that I liked cycling. It's one of the machines that we went on our circuit training, which included rowing and weightlifting, walking on the spot. Now I cycle to work every day, and that means that I get my 150 minutes of exercise, moderate exercise each week. When I had the heart attack, I weighed 16.5 stone, going on for 17 if I'm truthful. I now weigh 13, so I've lost 3.5 stone. But I need to lose another 1.5 stone to get my BMI to the correct level. My advice to anyone that would see this would be, don't get as far as I got. Don't have the heart attack before you start making changes. They're easy to make once you put your mind to it. Just get yourself into walking and talk to your GP. Check with your GP what you're able to do. It doesn't really matter what you do as long as you do something.